Good afternoon and welcome to Professional U. We're excited to have you. Professional U is just one of many programs, services, and resources we offer through the College of Arts and Sciences Career Success Center to ensure that students are career ready for whatever career you decided you want to pursue. And if you're still deciding, there's great information available to help you with that as well. Some other things I want to tell you about before we start with today's session. On October 6th, we're hosting with the Coggin College of Business, the Osprey Career Fair, which takes place from 3 until 6 p.m. at the University Center. And it gives you a chance to interact with employers for internships as well as jobs. The evening before, on October 5th, we're hosting a diversity mixer from 7 until 8. So it's a more intimate setting that gives you a chance to interact once again with employers to discuss your interests, what their opportunities are, and to engage. And again, that's specifically targeted to diverse populations. In regards to today, I am excited to have a speaker that I'll introduce to you, Melissa Fulmore-Hardwick. She's a Vice President of IT Enterprise Applications with Acosta Sales, and she's going to share some information with you today in regards to how to look at majors and careers in a different way. The title of the presentation is, it's not about the major, it's about your skills. Just some great information to share. I'll be here behind the scenes to monitor the chat and the Q&A. Please feel free to encourage and provide information that you'd like for her to respond to. We'd love to have your questions and comments as we go. I see we have about 10 of you signed into the group. We're happy to have you, 10 so far, so that is great. And again, put things in the chat. With that being said, Melissa, I'll turn this over to you.
Thank you so much, Vivian. And I am super excited about being here today to share with these students. Again, I'm Melissa Fulmore-Hardwick, Vice President. I run an enterprise applications group, and basically that is all types of development. The team is made up of business analysts, some process strategy folks, developers, integration architects, and it's basically a team that does deliver. So we stand up corporate systems in our space, primarily Oracle platform and Salesforce platform right now. And we use middleware, which is our current tool is MuleSoft and Azure. So the team is very diverse. And with that, I've led several teams of this magnitude. And with that, what I tend to see is there are majors and skill sets and backgrounds that cover the gamut. But these people are still very successful. So I wanted to talk a little bit about why it is very important to declare a major, right? In fact, I don't even think you can graduate without having declared one. And certainly getting a college education is essential. But I want to talk about something that we don't spend a lot of time focusing on because we feel like we've got to get into a major and we've got to make sure that we get a job in this particular field. But I'd like to challenge that narrative around whatever field I'm working in. My major has to match that. So we're going to spend a little time talking about that today. I'll tell you a little bit about my educational journey, which further leads me to believe so much into this topic, is that I started off, I majored in accounting when I went to college. You want to know why? Because I was good in math, right? Made straight A's in math, and I thought, certainly I need to be counting something. And so that was the level of effort I put into declaring a major. So I went all along and declared a major. And at the end of the day, realized very soon afterwards that my personality really didn't warrant me sitting behind a desk all day and looking at numbers. But I majored in accounting as an undergrad, graduated college, decided I really didn't want to be in that field, so to speak. But I went to work in that space anyway. But before I did that, I went back home and was getting my nails done one day, and the salon was packed. And I was like, wait, I know what I really want to do. I think I want to own a nail salon. So I got my nail license and opened up a nail salon. So certainly my accounting skills and my business savvy helped to run that business. But I was like, yeah, nah, this isn't going to work for me either. I don't really want to be polishing toes and doing nails all day long. So I went to work for a company, and I worked as a staff accountant for this particular company. While working there, we were having an implementation, a system implementation. At the time, it happened to be Oracle. So one of the big fours came in and they were revamping our technology. And I was approached to be a subject matter expert for the finance team. So I joined this project team and I become the subject matter expert, basically just telling them what our requirements are, almost as a business analyst in that role, but I was still a staff accountant for the organization. Did that, and shortly after decided that, wait a minute, I kind of like this stuff. So I went to training, went to some Oracle training. I remember sitting in my seat while the Oracle instructor was training, and she was talking about how she's in a different city every week. And I'm thinking, I'd like to travel, right? So I started talking to her about that. So went from being a staff accountant, being the Oracle representation for our team in the accounting space. Then I decided that I was going to go train on Oracle. And so at the time, the company that I worked for had companies in different places. And so I signed up to be the trainer for the organization training in Oracle. Did that for a while and decided, but I need a technical trainer behind my name. Did that. And before you know it, I became an Oracle consultant. So went to work for Oracle for a while, was on the road doing that. And one of the things that I realized was that even when you're doing these implementations, people they just don't want to change. So I came from being a business, right, a user in the system, to being a person implementing the system. And what I saw was there's a huge gap into, yeah, we're delivering great technology, but how do we make the business buy into it, right? So then I went and got a change management certification, and then ultimately went to work for a local company here in Jacksonville, got tired of traveling, and shortly, was there maybe about a year or so, and my boss said, I want you to get an MBA, right? I want to sponsor you, get an MBA for the organization, come back and drive some change and system transformation for the organization. And the reason I tell you that story is I literally went from declaring a major just because I was good at math in school, right? And ran the full gamut of entertaining different jobs along the way. So I stand here today and now I'm a vice president of IT, right? Never having gone into a dark closet and doing a whole bunch of code, but I manage people that do that all day long. And the moral of this story is it doesn't really matter what your major is. Yeah, you want to declare something. Yeah, you want to do something that you enjoy while you're in college so that you can finish it and you can get a degree. But I don't want you to get so caught up into what major I'm going to major in to where it even holds you back. Like I've seen my friends graduate a year after they were supposed to because they declared so many different majors along the way. And so my challenge to you would be declare a major and finish it. And then really, really learn about yourself and what it is that you really like to do. And I think the reason that I've been successful and I'm in this space today is because I've allowed my passion and my heart to guide me along the way. I've allowed the experiences that I've learned from each of these jobs, even in college, right? The organizations that I was a part of, I've used those things to really guide where I am. So we're gonna talk a little bit about that. So picking a major, it's a big decision, just like I said, but what I'd like to say is, what if someone said to you, I want you to keep doing all this research. I want you to keep planning and stressing about it because everybody knows that the major you choose will set your course for success in life. Do you agree with that? And maybe not after I just told you the story, but prior to hearing that, most students believe that to be true, right? Or on the flip side of that is somebody said, just pick one and roll with it. Whatever you decide to do, just finish it. Finish strong in whatever it is. And so while there's no right or wrong answer to that, I think that students can save a whole lot of grief if they decided on a major, but spent more time doing really, really good in college. Spent more time getting some experiences along the way, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a second. And so while some careers usually require a specific degree, there are many of us that can actually get into a career that we want without a degree that matches that career. And that's my testimony, right? I have an accounting degree. And yes, I have an MBA from a leadership perspective, but I'm now the vice president in IT. So certainly my degree doesn't necessarily match what it is that I'm doing today, right? But one of the things that you should know is your major, choosing a major, certainly shouldn't require you to be sitting up late at night shedding tears over whether or not you selected the right major. And we're going to talk a little bit about it and just kind of share along the way how employers even look at your degrees or your majors to your degrees, if they do at all. And so while I'm on this topic, though, what I will say is there are some degrees quite naturally, right? That's got to match the job. You ain't going to go be a doctor, right? and be a medical doctor and you've majored in sports medicine, perhaps, or English, right? But there are many, many careers and you can be extremely successful without having to have a degree in the field that you're working in. So your major isn't the whole of your education, right? And again, I said, while some careers are directly related to majors, most of these things in college that you experience should be preparing you, right, with some skills that are transferable. Most often than not, you will hear people saying, and hopefully this is what your instructors are saying to you these days in college, is that finish, just finish, right? And I think more companies, when we're looking at, I know me when I'm hiring, I really look to see, did you start or did you finish what you started, right? Did you start something and then you didn't complete it along the way, but did you really finish what you started? And that to me is really important, right? The fact that you majored in computer science, right, and ended up not graduating because you declared that major and didn't have enough credits, when really you could have declared a major in business and been done, right? That matters more to me, that you actually finish what you started. And so employees are often focused on learning about what you've done, right? And so when you think about your college experience, think about the clubs that you can be a part of, right? The organizations that you can actually lead. That's what employers are really focused on and are really concerned about. So learn about the significance of actually taking the time to get to know who you are and be honest with yourself, right? Like I said, I know I wasn't a bean counter, right? Why I majored in math? Majored in accounting. I was just good in math, but I couldn't even at the time consider or fathom what jobs would have been available to me had I done anything else, right? I either thought I was going to be an accountant all of my life, right? Maybe potentially being a CFO or a math teacher. And again, I cannot see myself at this point in my life being either of those things. So you've got to be true to yourself and know that if you don't really like to talk, then chances are teaching isn't for you, right? So I think it's important that we search ourselves too, as we entertain the majors that we're thinking about, to make sure that our heart is in the right place. Your major doesn't confine you to a specific career path. And again, my very journey that I went through earlier proves this to be the case, right? But what happens oftentimes too in college is that, we're told, oh, you should go be a doctor. Why do we want to be a doctor, right? Is it to really save lives? And that comes back to searching your heart, or is it because you believe doctors make good money, right? And I think there's this whole misconception about, based on the major that I picked, that's going to determine how much money I make. I can't tell you how many educated doctors that I know who are not even practicing, right? Because they didn't have some of the other necessary skills in life to be successful in that particular field. And so while we know that certain fields yield some higher incomes, your major does not need to align with the industry, right? So I often say that most individuals who dedicate their undergrad years to their field of choice, whatever that may be, don't necessarily end up achieving greater success, right, than those who arrived at that same place from an unrelated field. I think about me, I think about my peers, right? I think about people who I have succeeded in the workplace, who are in that IT space, who've gotten computer information degrees, right? And went on and got masters in that space. Doesn't necessarily mean that their career is more promising than somebody with an accounting background, right? So I don't want students to look at this as, based on the major that I select, that determines the altitude in terms of where I would go from a career perspective. And the real world doesn't really care about your degree as much as it cares about your work ethic and your attitude, right? one of the other things that I struggle with. And there are some personalities, believe it or not, that go along with certain skills. Like I have these developers and brilliant minds. All they want to do is go in the dark and code. They don't want to talk. They don't want to talk to the business. They don't want to communicate with anybody. They just want to build, right? They want to develop things. They want to, kick out code. That's what they want to do, right? And so that matches what it is. That particular job in that case happens to match. But again, somebody like me, you can't put me in a room and tell me to do code, right? You can't put me in front of, a 9-key machine and say, go count numbers all day long. And so your work ethic and your attitude around the role that you have is very, very, very important. As VP in IT, right, one would think that my biggest challenge is designing and developing systems, coding systems. But my biggest opportunity in my role at this level is really to align with my business partners, to let them know and have them believe that what I'm building is going to add efficiencies, is going to help their processes at the end of the day. Well, what is that, Melissa? That involves communicating. Well, what do I like to do most? Talk. So certainly my attitude, my personality, 100% matches the role that I'm in right now. And while that may sound kind of touchy-feely to you right now, I think it's very important that you consider, your personality when you start thinking about, what it is that you want to do for your career. And who I am today, no, I wasn't that person at 18. In fact, when I went to college, I really should have majored in something around, marketing or something, because all I wanted to do was go out and talk to people and, tell them how great of a time or how great this bar was, at that particular time. So I could have been marketing some things that I probably shouldn't have. But you get the point, right? Based on my attitude, I think my personality and my work ethic has allowed me to be successful in this space, even though I don't have a degree to match it, right? And I just have a little example down here. I basically already talked about it. For math majors, right? Typically, there are great analytical skills that they possess. They can problem solve, right? While somebody that is majoring in history are readers, right? They're doing a lot of research. But both of these careers could land, both of these majors can land very, very, very lucrative careers outside of those particular skills. Your experience, be it on the job or off the job, is what people really notice. One of the things that I'm doing today, talking to students, is something that I absolutely love to do. And the reason I'm probably doing it right now in this UNF space is because I came across somebody as a part of the team that's putting this on that saw this was something that I really enjoyed doing, right? And so we have to take advantage of opportunities, even as undergraduate students, to do internships and to be involved in organizations that you're passionate about. People see that passion, right? And all that means is when I'm doing something that I really enjoy doing, I want it to be great. I'm passionate about it. And so I think that oftentimes as students, it's hard to really see. I was talking to a student not long ago, and one of the things they said is, I want to major in film. And I said, well, show me some of the films that you've made. Like, I'd like to see some of the films. And the response was, well, I don't really have any on my phone. And I'm like, you can't convince me that you're passionate about that if you can't even walk around and have a demonstration or show me what it is that you claim you want to major in, right? And their response to me was, well, you can't really see my passion. Well, that's a problem, because I should be able to see passion. It should be demonstrated in some way. So take advantage of the opportunities that you may have in your organizations or on campus where you can volunteer. You'd be surprised at those just lines on your resume that call those things out, that I was the president of, student government, or I was, the treasurer of my sorority or fraternity, right? And basically what it does is it allows you to create your own experience, right? These are the experiences that shows that you're a leader. So organizations, when they hire you, they're looking for stuff like that. And so be intentional as it relates to organizations and roles that you play, even in school. They show up and they mean a lot on your resumes when it's time to sell yourself. And ultimately recognize that your personal grit that you have, with that, you can be whatever you want to be, right? And again, I can't tell you, I think there was a percentage that said 27% of people that graduate with a certain major doesn't even really work in their field of study. And so what that says is, if you are a finisher, if you are somebody that can follow through, if you are somebody that has demonstrated leadership capabilities, right? If you are somebody that your soft skills, right? You know how to represent yourself. Most companies nowadays are looking for graduates like yourselves when you come out of college that can represent their company, right? So that means that when you show up, you really show up, right? You say, hey, I'm showing up to Acosta, and this is what I can do for Acosta, right? And if your resume doesn't say that you've done anything except you finished school and this is your major, then it gives the employers very little to work with, right? So allow yourself to have the type of pedigree that says, I can even be flexible. And that's another thing, right? Even if you graduate in a field, right? You have a major and it's time to find a job. And in some instances, it's because jobs are just hard to come by. So you settle for a job that you may not necessarily wanted to do, but you needed to work, you needed to get your foot in the door. You'd be surprised at how sometimes that becomes your new career, because you get in there and you do such a great job and you realize there's other opportunities. Again, in IT, for example, I can talk about that. The backgrounds and the majors for the people that are on my team are across the board, right? I'm a leader in this space and I have an accounting degree. I have people who were school teachers in the past, right? Majors are just engineers, or we have science majors. I mean, it's just across the board, these majors that these folks have in the organization, and they are extremely successful. So don't be limited by what's out there and what's offered to you by way of education. And so I want to just pose a question right now to you guys. And you can just kind of put in the number, and maybe it's that you have it. I'm not really sure what the makeup of, if it's juniors, seniors, freshmen, sophomores out there. But I'd like to know if there's anybody who went to college saying, I'm going to major in one thing, and who has since changed their mind. Just put yes or no in the comments so that I will know what that number looks like. Vivian, you can kind of help me sort through that.
I'm here and I am looking. Sometimes it takes them a minute to start generating some responses there.
Okay. And you know, most colleges, you don't really have to declare a major until after you're a sophomore heading into your junior year. But I'm just curious to know, is it quite common right now for kids to start college and then determine, you know what, I started off and I wanted to major in this, but all of a sudden I course corrected and I've changed my mind based on a lot of things, maybe based on, your family, members of your family who's majored in something. You went to work part-time at a company while in college to just make some extra cash. And all of a sudden you realize that that's something you're good at. So you change your major, but interested to see what that looks like.
Yes, we actually do have some saying that they did experience that, where they had to change the major from what they initially planned to do. It is a pretty common occurrence on this and many other college campuses.
Good.
And that leads to a question for you, Melissa.
Okay.
In regards to that, if you can maybe share some insight with how students could deal with the naysayers. Because there are some students who are clear that they may have that interest in history or anthropology or psychology, sociology, some of the liberal arts areas that are often received with negative feedback. What job will you get? How much will you get paid? People have a hard time making a connection between certain majors and career success. And you've been debunking that mindset throughout your presentation, which is great. But they're still having to deal with naysayers, who are often parents, friends, classmates, other family members. Sometimes in the media, they show charts and graphs on what the best majors are, who makes the most. Can you share some insight on how to walk in this when you're dealing with naysayers?
Yeah. So this almost goes back to my original purpose behind why I know this works, and that is, what is your passion, right? And oftentimes, even in college, I didn't know what it was that I was really supposed to be doing in life, and I really didn't think through, how can I truly make a difference, right? But I think oftentimes people don't realize, right? And again, everybody is not going to college to go out and make $1 million, right? Some people are going to college to make a change in life, right? So oftentimes there are jobs that are extremely necessary, right, for the things going on around us, but it may not look like it's a lucrative field. And my response was, right, would be to them is that don't put any limits on me as it relates to my choice in major, right? Again, I can major in something today, and based on your grit, based on your personality, based on your work ethics, you can take it to another level. So, you know, I would certainly challenge those people when they say this is just not a great field to go in. I would challenge them that you don't really know what's inside of me, right? I can do whatever I want to do with this degree, and you can, and not be limited. And so I certainly wouldn't be discouraged by that. And I know so many people that majored in you know, a psychology major that are doing amazing things. Some are related to the field that they're in, and some are not. But again, I think it goes back to the individual, and that's why you got to know that your college days, what's important is for you to get a great education from your school of choice and to finish strong, right? Not so much about the major, but about you finishing. And if you think that you've chosen a major that you cannot graduate out of because it's too difficult, too many classes, too many lab hours, whatever, flip it. Get a degree that you can actually finish, because I believe it's more important that you have a degree than having classes that you think match a major that you want to go in and not being able to finish.
Melissa, we have another question for you. How do you figure out what skills you are good at? And the responder saying, for me personally, it's hard to look at something and say, I'm good at this when I know I can improve. So what kind of insight can you give about how they can figure out what skills they're good at?
Sure. Well, you know, there's all types of personality tests that are out there, right? That based on your answers, if you're honest in your answers, they kind of will give you a personality test, right? But I'd like to say that is why it's important to get jobs in college, to be a part of organizations, right? So that you know whether or not you're a good decision maker. If you're a part of an organization and you have a job to do, you'll know if you're able to rally people behind you. Are you able to pick up a following, right? Even on social media. Now, I'm not a big fan of social media, but it's easy for me to go on social media when kids are applying for jobs and decide whether or not they're a leader, just based on the type of posts that they make and the followers that they have. But I would say the best way to determine what you're good at is to be involved in something, work on something, right? And so while you're working on it, even if it's a project, right? So you can even learn in school based on the projects that you sign up for, what it is that makes you feel good. When you do a good job at something, you feel good doing it, chances are that's one of your skill sets, right? And I think that we get gifts along the way. Some of us are gifted to do certain things. Doesn't even necessarily mean that the thing I'm gifted in is the thing that is going to work for me. But I found that even as a child, I talked all the time, right? I should have known that majoring in math wasn't gonna work for me because I loved talking. My personality wasn't one to just be confined to one. I was a cheerleader. I was very outspoken. And so I knew the things that I was good at. I was used to corralling people. I like to help people. So I said something that I do has to be in the form of being able to help people, being able to bring people together, and being able to transform some things. I knew that at probably 25, 26 is when I really realized how to shape that and put it into the professional arena. But I would say your job, the job that you work on, right? Figure out what makes you feel good about it and that you're good at, and declare that thing. What I really think we should shy away from is if you're doing something and you just don't feel, it doesn't feel good to you in your heart, chances are that's not something that you really want to be doing, right? And so find those things that you excel at. Find those things that when you excel at them, you feel good about it. Find those things that when you're daydreaming, right, and you think about where you are, that type of job is involved in it. And again, that may seem like some old warm and fuzzy stuff, but I'm telling you, most people are successful because they enjoy what it is that they're doing, right? You can't tell me that I'm going to stay on a job and be successful and grow in that job if every time I get up in the morning, I'm, in this mood about going to do this job. And so find the things that you're good at, lead in organizations, be a part of group, activities. And it's going to take some trial and error, right? You try some things. Yeah, well, that didn't work out. Yeah, I'm going to go in a different direction. But you gotta find something that you enjoy doing and you're good at doing it. And chances are that will match whatever your gift is. Now, it may not match your major, but it will certainly match what it is that you probably should be doing if you want to be successful. Is there another question out there, Vivian, or can I continue?
Not at the moment. I think they're still thinking.
Okay. And so the bottom of this particular slide says, ultimately recognize your personal grit and you can be whatever you want to be. And that kind of sums up what I just said, right? You have to know what it is that you can handle. There are a lot of jobs out there. And sometimes, I question, even as an adult being in a career for a long time, there's been times where I've questioned, well, Melissa, are you really cut out for this, right? But when I think about the alternative of not doing that, is when I feel like, yep, this is it, because I can't imagine myself not doing it, right? So like even right now, I can imagine myself maybe not being the VP of IT, but I can't imagine myself not being a leader who is trying to change something, transform something, right? So any job that I get, even if it's not in IT, it needs to be where I can influence some things and try and drive change, because that's what I like to do. I like making a difference. And so if I ever get to the point where I can't make a difference, I'm probably going to sit down and retire because I won't enjoy it anymore. And so that's the space that I try to stay in, because I know that I'm good there and I'm comfortable and it makes me feel good. And I have the grit and the tenacity to see it through. So even when it gets difficult or it seems difficult, I need to be flexible to try to find a way to make that work for me, because that makes me feel good inside. And it happens to be a lucrative field. So, right, it's a win-win for me in that regard. But I think even if it wasn't, I feel better about getting up in the morning when I put my feet on the floor saying, you know what, I'm going to go and I'm going to make change today. That works for me.
Melissa,
Right.
I just want to share that Rachel just commented that while she didn't have a question for you, that your insight and advice is really needed right now. I think a lot of students are having to ponder so much about making these kinds of decisions, and what you're offering to them is very much appreciated.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thanks for that, Rachel. And one of the things that I think is so important, even right now as we shift, right, in our world is going through something that we've never seen before, right? And what I say to students when I talk to them all the time is what is so important in this season, regardless of what your major is, regardless of what you think you want to do, what's important is that you show up. And what I mean by showing up is things like this right here today, right? Is that we take advantage of those opportunities where it can help us grow, because it's crazy times going on. We don't really know. Imagine if your entire education from here on was dependent upon you getting on a Zoom call, right? So you got to show up. What does show up mean, Melissa? That means that I'm prepared when I come to my Zoom call. That means I have questions. That means that I'm ready to respond when the professor needs help with something. I find a way to be helpful even in that space. So when I start talking about making sure that you have grit, right, and that you're cut out for this stuff, make sure that you show up, whatever major or field you go into. My number one thing is show up and raise your hand, and you'll get noticed, right? Your leaders will know, this is the person that I want on my team. I want a Rachel on my team because she showed up and she was ready and she was engaged, right? And so if this is all that we have to go on for the next foreseeable amount of time, make sure that you show up. Whatever major you're in, however you do your classes, however you be a part of your organizations, it's important that you show up. And so this particular slide basically sums up a lot of what I said, right? And initially we talked about, your degree is a prerequisite. I don't want to get this twisted. I'm not talking against degrees, because I absolutely believe you got to have the degree. You got to finish what you started. So that's a prerequisite. If you want to be competitive in the workforce, if you want to compete for jobs, good jobs, then you must know that the degree itself is a prerequisite. I am just combating the myth that it has to be a certain type of degree in a certain field, but your degree, hands down, gets you in the door, right? Your experience, talked about this, no matter where it is from. You know, I've seen resumes where college students just graduating out of college have come in and talked about, I worked at McDonald's, but I was a lead at McDonald's, right? I was a crew leader at McDonald's. That says a lot to me. That says, okay, well, while we're talking, you know, thinking that McDonald's is a small job, leading a shift or leading a crew at McDonald's is amazing as it relates to leadership skills and scheduling, right? And so that's big. So don't despise even the days of small for the things that you're doing right now on campus, right? If your teacher has asked that you help do X, Y, and Z, put that on your resume. All of those experiences get noticed. And especially, you know, a lot of times you come out of college, you don't have a whole lot of work experience. So you have to put those things that you've done. You went to church, right? And you led the choir in church. That's leadership, right? You babysat, right? And you, I don't know, gave CPR or something to kids. You got a certification. All of those things matter. And so you want to make sure that your experience gets noticed. The other thing is, think about your soft skills. Think about how you present yourself, right? Again, I talked a lot about the developers on my team who really don't like to talk. They'll be successful, right? Because there's always a need for code and to develop systems. But I'll tell you, if we can't get up and have a conversation with leaders, if we can't communicate with people, regardless of your major, it's going to be a challenge for you as you start talking about climbing the ladder in your career. You got to have soft skills. You got to know how to have conversations, and not just conversations, uncomfortable conversations. You got to be comfortable being uncomfortable, right? And so I think a lot of times we get so hardcore onto these majors and try to get into the skill set behind the majors that we miss some soft skills. And I think that's imperative as you start to get in your career and grow, building relationships. It's so important. And so you'll have to be able to have some strong soft skills in essence to be able to do that. So you're better aligned, you're a better performer when you're aligned with your purpose. I wholeheartedly believe that. I believe that when you enjoy what it is that you're doing, regardless of you know, how it impacts you financially, when you enjoy what it is that you're doing, you're good at doing it. It makes it all the worthwhile, right? It doesn't matter to me that I have to get up and go to work in the morning because I absolutely enjoy what it is that I'm doing. There's a feeling of feeling, you know, fulfilled, right? I've been on jobs before where I wasn't fulfilled. I made decent money, but I didn't feel like I was making a difference. I didn't feel like that I was moving the needle. And so I think we perform so much better when we're aligned with our purpose. Now, I am not getting spiritual and saying, hey, everybody go out and find your true purpose in the world. No, but I'm saying if you got to be true to your heart, right? You got to be true to your heart. If you don't like talking to people, don't major or get a job in something where you have to talk. And so be true to yourself, because when you enjoy what it is that you're doing, you'd be surprised at how easy it is to do it and how you excel in that space because you enjoy doing it. And network, right? Your network matters. That goes back to network with your professors, network with your neighbors, network with, you know, wherever you work, your associations. Make sure that you network, even in the college. I was talking to a young lady last week on a board that I just recently joined, and she told me that her very first board opportunity was right out of college. And it has, taken her to, she said, I can't even imagine being where I am today had it not been for that board opportunity. And she got the board opportunity because she signed up for an internship that nobody wanted. She said it was going to be hard and, you know, kind of getting her hands dirty, but she signed up for it. And the person that was in charge during that time, she was so impressionable that they thought they could give her a board position. And she has excelled so much just from that relationship, right? So network with people, keep your relationships strong and healthy, because you never know when somebody is going to say, hey, I'm bringing this person along because I like their grit, I like their experience, I like what they've done, and I'm able to communicate and build relationships with them. So make sure that you network. And then the last thing I have here before we kind of do some questions is, and again, this is self-explanatory, we talked about it, make daily decisions that will bring you closer to your goals and you'll find success no matter your major, right? And I believe that. That goes back to me. My daily decisions are the things around, what do you want to do? What do you want to do for your family? What do you want to be when you grow up? I'm 50 and I'm still asking myself, Melissa, what do you want to be when you grow up? Because I'm armed with education. Regardless of what the field of study that I chose, I am armed with an education. And I'm passionate about what it is that I like doing when I enjoy it. And so I think if I continue to make my daily decisions around what I'm passionate about, coupled with the education that I have, I believe that whatever career choice I make, that the sky's the limit. And so I'll stop now and take some questions. I think we have 5 minutes left. I'd like to entertain some questions if there are any.
So we have another comment from Mackenzie, who's appreciating your emphasis on the importance of showing up and referencing that as an easy term to remember, but so important. So it's a great takeaway, something they can leave this session with, remembering to show up in their various opportunities.
Absolutely, absolutely. And, you know, I say show up. As a college student, it's easy to throw on a t-shirt and a bald cap, you know, and just kind of show up. But I challenge you, right, again, in this space where Zoom is our only means sometimes of communicating and seeing faces, you know, I do presentations almost all day long. I'm on a Zoom call, right? And I make sure that at least my top, right, looks good. I think growing up, we used to see that the people on the news would have on nice tops and then they get up and they'd have on jean shorts or pajamas, even in some instances. And I'm not that bad, but make an effort, make an assertive effort to show up, right? Make them say there was something about that Vivian girl that when she showed up on screen, she was ready. She looked the part. She talked the part, right? And so people remember you. You want to show up in whatever space that you're in so that there is something about you. Listen, it's competitive. There's tons of kids that graduate college every single day. How do you stand out? Why should I invest this one allocation for a job that I have? Why should I spend it on you? Why? Because you came and you showed up, and I realized there was something different about you that makes me want to invest in this particular graduate. So yeah, definitely showing up is important.
Melissa, Aiden would like to know, what keeps you motivated every day?
Well, Aiden, a little secret. So I'm like 50 with like an 8-year-old. So I'm like the oldest parent in the 3rd grade class. So I gotta be motivated because I got a little one that's watching. But truly, I am motivated because this whole concept of what I'm talking about has worked for me. I have really dedicated my career to finding roles that you're good at, Melissa, so that you enjoy what it is that you're doing. So I'm motivated because I realize I have a degree and I'm passionate typically when I get things. And so I'm motivated by the fact that I'm going to be successful. Like I am in charge of my own fate at this point. And oftentimes in life, I remember times where, you know, I felt like my success depended on somebody else, right? Needing somebody else to carry me. And I'm not saying that to say we don't need help at certain times in our lives, but what I'm saying is you got to be equipped. You got to be ready. You got to make sure that your game is tight when you go out here because it's extremely competitive. And so I feel like I've done some right things to, number one, keep myself competitive, right? To find the job that I know I'm good at and that I enjoy doing. And so I'm doing that, and that motivates me even the more. Additionally, what motivates me, Aiden, is the fact that I can help others. I can give jobs to young people that I really, really know based on their experience, based on their grit, based on their passion, that I really know they're gonna make a difference in this world. And so I'm able to afford opportunities to students, and that is so important to me. I've always said that if there is seat at the table for me, I'm going to make sure that I am making a difference. And so since the opportunity has been afforded me, right, that I am in a position to give back and to pull others up, I'm certainly motivated and excited about being able to do that. Hopefully that answered your question.
I think it did, Melissa, and we've pretty much come to the end of our session. I don't know if there was any last tidbit of advice you wanted to offer. You've shared so much information.
I just want to say, you know, as students that are in college, I'm super, super proud of you. I love this age group because the sky is really the limit for you guys, right? You got an open canvas. And so there are so many things you can do. There are jobs that are out now that weren't even real jobs when I was coming along. So you can almost chart your own course. So I think if you declare a major, graduate, you know, take advantage of your college experience and get some jobs along the way, whether it's on campus or not, that shows how great you are on paper. I think you guys are destined for success.
Melissa, I would like to echo many of the comments that we've seen, and one just popped in. So let me just take the opportunity to share this with you as well from Aiden, that he appreciates the help you've given today and anytime you've previously spoke, and hope that you will continue to give advice to future students as well, and your energy is loved. And so I'd like to echo those comments by thanking you for taking time out of your very busy schedule to come and share with our students your insight, your wisdom, tips and strategies, your energy, your passion for what you do, as well as helping others. Thank you so much. We greatly appreciate it. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Bye, guys.
Have a good day.